Aye, aye, oh, Capitan.
Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to just show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win.
Yeah.
Because really, who doesn't?
Intro
Nobody
time.
wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to win.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, what's up, Panther fans? Tony Dunn here. C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest news and opinions from the Panthers perspective, from the fan perspective, and I'm here tonight, Mel Mayock. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, except every Tuesday night except for this week, where we bring you the special edition of Monday night, baby. So we got to keep it going.
Yeah, that's right. Is that here? Everybody is probably wondering why the heck we are on tonight, and that is because somebody has got a job. And they got to work tomorrow night. It's graduation. But it's okay, because we're going to keep the show going, and we do it with our buddy Joe Riolano. What's up, Joe?
Tony, it's Monday night. What the heck's going on?
I know. What do you usually do on Monday night?
Usually, about this time, I'm watching The Resident or I'm watching Terror.
Okay. All right. So Joe's locked. Couch locked.
Thank God for DVRs, because I can DVR that, but we're talking Carolina Panthers football and some big breaking news that took place today.
I know.
Yeah, man.
People are gonna think we're doing the show because of the news, but we're really doing the show because Cody Lashley's here again, folks. What's up, Cody?
What's up, Tony? You had me at hello, brother. I'm happy to be on the show once again, talking about Panthers football with my favorite podcasters. Let's do it. I'm ready to go.
All right, guys. Tonight's show, and this is what we're talking about, is a little special breaking news. Tonight's episode is "You're Going to Help Us, Mr. Anderson, whether you want to or not." The Carolina Panthers have signed C.J. Anderson, dipping their toe back into free agency, rounding out the roster. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about another scandal with Curtis Fuller and the resignation of a defensive back coach, and trying to assess Marty Hurney's offseason. Marty Hurney is a big story of this team this season, this past year, and will continue to be. And it's going to be hard to not talk about him and not talk about the job he's doing as we continue to wait and see what the Carolina Panthers are doing. But while we wait for this season, what we need is your support, folks. Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button on the YouTube. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up on the Facebook, as Mel Mayock calls it. And also, if you're watching on Periscope, hit that retweet. We could really use your support. Help by subscribing to the show. Consider donating using the Patreon link or the PayPal link that's in the show notes. And we could use your help with a couple of subscribes. The goal is to get to 1,000. Now we're trying to do it by training camp. I think we can do that more. And with your help, we can. So send this link to a friend. Let's jump into this, guys. The Carolina Panthers have signed C.J. Anderson. And I've only got one thing to say.
You're going to help us, Mr. Anderson, whether you want to or not.
So is that Marty Hurney himself?
That is Marty Hurney in the Matrix right there. He is back. He plays many hats. He plays many roles. This is the only world where GMs are GMs for a team twice with a Marty Hurney. Here, Joe, here you go. Here's a little history reference. Marty Hurney is like the Grover Cleveland of the football world. You're president, then you take a break, you're president again. All right. Guys, CJ Anderson has been signed. Joe, I'm going to open it up to you. You coming in here hot, screeching in, right? Because he's our boy and we love him. So we want to know what his take is. Joe, CJ Anderson, go.
I think that's the one thing everybody was wanting, C.J. Anderson. That's the big back they're looking for to complement CMC. And many people didn't think we were going to do it. You know, it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And all of a sudden, the news breaks today, and people are excited. 1,000-yard rusher last year. Averaged over 4 yards a carry. And if he can do that here in Carolina, all I can say is watch out.
Mel, what you got on CJ?
I tell you, man, he's a top tier type of back. I mean, how often do you get a running back that averaged over 4 yards a carry and had over 1,000 yards, led his team, by far, and then to be this long into free agency? I mean, it's unbelievable. We're getting him on a 1-year prove-it type of a deal. Now, the key to him, you look at his stats over his career, he's kind of a boom or bust. I mean, he's either the stud that will change our offense or he's going to be injured. It's one of the two. So if he stays healthy, man, what a combination he and Christian McCaffrey are going to be.
Cody, I'm going to go to you, and I want to know right here, what do you think about this?
We're willing to wipe the slate clean. Fresh start. All
well,
we're asking in return is your cooperation in bringing a known terrorist to justice.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a really good deal. But I think I got a better one. How about I give you the finger?
Oh.
And you give me my phone call.
All right. Do you believe that C.J. Anderson is a good deal, or do you want to give him the middle finger and get your phone call?
Well, no, I do want to say that I like the signing. This might not sound like the most glowing endorsement for a running back, but he's one of the better pass blocking running backs in the NFL. And frankly, I don't know how the left side of our offensive line is going to be this year. It's an up in the air type of deal, and C.J. Anderson helps a lot right now.
I think that's a great.
I'm not mad at that at all.
I think that's a very astute point because I love Christian McCaffrey, but if he does have one weakness, and I'm not talking about running between the tackles, I'm talking about being able to hold up in pass protection on 3rd and long when somebody like Von Miller blows in, right? So it's having an upgrade for pass blocking on 3rd down in this type of an offense, I think, is an underrated reason why we made this signing. So, good point.
All right, I'm going to go. This is my 2 cents on C.J. Anderson. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, as from a roster, personnel, and management standpoint, I think this is a good move. You're getting a veteran guy. You're probably not going to overpay. He's 27 years old. You're kind of in the sweet spot of athleticism meeting veteran, savvy. Yeah, experience. So it shows in that pass protection. But I'm saying I don't know for one reason. Number one, CJ left a terrible taste in my mouth 2 years ago when I drafted him in fantasy football in 2015. And
do not draft him this year.
Against him?
We'll draft him this year and put the jinx on him.
All right, so he strangely he did average 4.7 yards an attempt that year, but he only had 150. He really hasn't got a lot of miles on him, to be honest.
Not many carries at all.
No. So this is why I don't know, and I know, guys, I can't hold the fantasy football year against him because it was the year that we played in. I think it was the year we played in the Super Bowl. There was one year he was just off. It might have been 2 years ago, actually. It might not have been last year or the year before. I can't remember. But here's where I say I don't know is because the Denver Broncos offensive line has not been particularly good the last few years. And then C.J. Anderson has done kind of stints in the doghouse, it seems like. And I can't remember who was that guy that was the coach with them when they went to the Super Bowl. Used to be the Texans coach.
Wade Phillips?
Oh,
No,
Kubiak.
yeah, is that I feel like with Kubiak, C.J. Anderson was used with all these other no-name backs, and if he didn't get things going, they weren't ready to stick with him, and it looked like when you watched them play, it didn't matter who you stuck back there. It's like nobody could have done well. So I don't know if C.J. Anderson is a hidden gem behind in a terrible situation who can now be put into a better fit and then thrive, or if he just wasn't as good as advertised. I'm hoping it's the former. I will wait and see. But I think this again shows you that Marty Hurney has been thinking that we tend to freak out. We tend to think of, why didn't we get a back? How are we going to do this with Cameron Artis-Payne and Christian McCaffrey? The draft. And there is a third element to this. It's the back end of free agency, and it may not be over for the Carolina Panthers. I like this move. I do think overall that this helps the roster.
Oh, no doubt about it. And something that's interesting, you look at CJ's career, he's had 5 years in the NFL, and every single year he has averaged over 4 yards a carry. And how long has it been since John Stewart has averaged over 4 yards a carry? Last year it was 3.2. The year before that, I think it was 3.8. So, he's been on the downslide. And C.J. Anderson, like Joe said earlier, doesn't have a whole lot of mileage. I mean, most of his years, he's been having 150. 1 year at 110 carries.
Here's his numbers right here. Here's his numbers. And he had none in 2013 when he was 22. 23 years old, 179 rushes. It went down in 2015, 152, 110 in 2016. Last year, back up 245. Now, if you just think about this, is that Jonathan Stewart, the lowest he's had in the last 4 years was 175 carries, and that was in 2014. He averaged 4.6 yards. Yards per. Is that he averaged 4.6, then 4.1. It's been 2 years since he's crested 4. Joe, the mileage here, that has to say something for a guy that of his age. At some point, here, do you ever look at CJ and wonder if he looks a little heavy, or is it like the flap jacket? What's going on with that?
5'8", 224.
Yeah, I think. There's some bulk there. No doubt.
Yeah, I guess when you say the 5'8", all of a sudden the 224 gets a lot heavier.
Yeah.
Looks heavier.
Right.
So I bet he carries a good bit of it in his legs. But there may be a little punch there under the jersey. But he moves well for his size. And I think he's an underrated receiver out of the backfield. I wouldn't, he's not spectacular out of the backfield, but I think he's probably a bit underrated.
You know what? He could be the Darren Sproles role in the North Turner offense.
And, we have Christian McCaffrey as well. That's literally what we drafted him for. And, add in Cam Newton running the ball as many times as he's going to. We don't need C.J. Anderson to be a do-everything kind of running back in our system. And another thing, when you're a free agent, guys are trying to go where they feel they have a chance of winning the whole thing. So I feel like CJ might have looked at us and said, I fit perfect right there with what they want me to do and how close they are with how their roster's set up.
Yo, big shout out to the chat room tonight. These guys are bringing it strong on the off night.
On Monday, yeah.
What up with you, baby Bubba? Pat Coltrane here, the train stop. You can check him out. Always doing good work on the Carolina Panthers. Right, you got Shockhead, Chris Cole, Panthers God, FSU 23, Lot 10 Tizzy. I can't believe this is awesome, guys. I'm so happy. Look, we barely even told anybody we were doing this this evening. It was kind of pushed up. My wife is the reason we're doing the show. My wife, I haven't even thought about it. Like every Tuesday night I do the podcast. Like I just don't plan crap on
autopilot, yeah.
Yeah, and then my wife was like, "So what are you gonna do with graduation on Tuesday night?" And I was like,
"Oh."
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, "Man, am I gonna take that mess off? I'm gonna skip." And I even got some good news from my boss. But all right, so let's talk about C.J. Anderson in the context of Marty Hurney's performance. Right now, you have Marty Hurney who's come in. He assumed the general manager role under kind of odd circumstances with the quick firing of Dave Gettleman. He comes in, this interim tag that was fake and false that they then made him full-time GM. But, you get this Panther, you get people vacillating between he's great, he's terrible. So just to think about what we did this offseason, Marty Hurney goes out and signs Dontari Poe, a big force to replace Star Lotulelei up the middle. And then he goes and signs Rashard Breeland. And all of a sudden we think, holy cow, he hits two really good free agents. But then there is this hiccup, right? This, it turns out Rashard Breeland had two left feet, and then we had to go and look where, and somehow we still got what seems to be a serviceable defensive back in Ross Cockrell. Then we settled down. Some big names are out there. We settled down. We continue to wait for the draft, and then we've talked about the draft. So up into the draft, guys, let's just talk really quickly around the horn here. How did you feel in the free agent phase 1 of free agent acquisitions, Dontari Poe and then Ross Cockrell?
Well, hey, I'll just jump in there. I liked it, and honestly, I think the whole thing started with the move he made in the middle of the season, which was trading Kelvin Benjamin, because that not only did that change our offense more to his style, which is spreading things out, but it also freed up $8 million that he could use in free agency. And then he went out there and picked up Dontari Poe. He picked up Ross Cockrell, but he also picked up the Norris Searcy, and he picked up the left guard from Minnesota. Can't remember his name right at the moment, but he was able to pick up and fill holes so that you did not have to go reach in the draft. So, hey, I'm loving what he's done so far.
Cody, jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the one thing that makes me like the overall of what Marty has done has been Dontari Poe. I think that he was able to upgrade the position. I've been underwhelmed with Star Lotulelei the past few years, and if you look at the numbers, Dontari Poe has done more with less. And he was not on our radar. That was not a name that I saw in the rumor mill of him coming to us. I think when you look at the draft and what you did in free agency, there's been a real concerted effort to add more speed to the team. And I feel so far, without having seen the Panthers on the field, that he did just that. He made us stronger on the defensive line and faster in our backfield. I mean, I'm happy right now. There's not too much to complain about. Add in Torrey Smith. We have weapons on the team right now. I don't know how you could be too critical of the old Hearn over here. So yeah, I'm happy right now.
Joe, we're going to you into the last phase of free agency where this team is trying to put together, fill in those missing pieces that you could not answer in the big push of free agency, that maybe didn't fall to you in the draft. I got to feel like this is that I'm feeling good so far about this. Today's move continued to show and indicate to me that this plan is not fully been executed entirely, but this was just phase 3 of that. Joe, how do you feel about this?
I think you're right. I know we're not done looking. I'm going to say that. I believe there's a round of cuts coming sometime in June.
There's also Trey Boston. There's also Eric Reed. There's also Kenny Vaccaro.
go out there, and I don't think I know we're not done looking, but I will say this: I don't think we're in a have to have situation. Right. I think if the right person is there at the right price, and we make a move, I'm thinking most specifically at safety. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say, you know what tomorrow is. Tomorrow at 4:00 is when the next round of free agency does start. That's when you can pick up one of these guys and not forfeit any compensatory picks. Yeah. So somebody like Reed or Trey Boston, somebody like that is going to get snatched up in the next couple of days. The question is it going to be here?
Right, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. If it's not a good match for us, we don't have to make the move. Right. We made some good selections in the draft that leave us in a very comfortable place. Now, if we can add someone at the right price and have them come in and fill a role, that's a
increased competition. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not do it? Even if it's nothing but adding depth.
Right.
Then let's do it. But we don't have to, and that's a great place to be in.
That's a fantastic point, Joe, is that, this is why we still bring Joe on the show. He makes fantastic points.
I thought it was just his uncanny good looks.
Yeah, that too. And that Joe and me go so way back. Like separate me and Joe is tough, right? But no, it's a really important point you make, and one that we've kind of discussed when it comes to general manager positions here in Carolina. And really, Dave Gettleman's weakness as a GM was his tendency to force himself into a corner. But you're right, you have the ability now. Is that really, if you wouldn't have made the C.J. Anderson signing, we would have kind of been in that mode of where you are back to the, one injury, and all of a sudden you're talking about Fozzie and Christian McCaffrey, and maybe it's not ideal at that point. But here, you have the ability to potentially sign a guy who you could play as a rotational player at free safety, a veteran guy that maybe you would want to bring in for just to start 4 or 5 games until you could get those rookies a little bit more reps, and you give them, and then you bring in the athleticism towards the back end of the season. I like this, and one of the things I do think, we've done this show in the past, the roster building show, and when you think about free agency, when you think about the draft, when you think about free agency signings, I understand that people want to go wild, and you want the big name, or you can criticize the names that they do sign. But if you're really filling out a large roster, that you then gives you flexibility to select the best guys rather than being stuck with certain guys. So I think that we're continuing to see that happen.
And that's where Marty is having such a great year. He's not leaving himself vulnerable to having to have to make a move. He is playing, I think he's playing a perfect game of poker here.
So it's official, guys? C3 is feeling the Hearn?
Absolutely.
All right.
I believe so. And I want to add another thing. We signed 3 free agent left guards. So it also shows to me that he knows that there's a question mark at that position after losing Andrew Norwell. So at least have some depth there, whether if Taylor Moton ends up being the answer, which personally I would love. I felt he was better at the position than he was at tackle. There's depth there. So, there's not really a whole lot that you can, drag him over. And he's done a good job. You like to think that he learned his lesson after his first stint here.
Right. I think he probably picked up a ton of experience between the time he left and when he was asked to come back. He was watching things. I'm sure he was soaking up every little bit of information he could. just to try to, learn from his mistakes and then being presented with the opportunity again? Are you kidding me? He would not blow it.
Yeah, I want to go to the YouTube chat. Look, Andy Massey here. Look.
The barkeep. The barkeep.
Yes, the barkeep in the house. Andy Massey's here, and I love this, is that it's the best. You know you're married when you're signed in as your wife. Well, but Andy's here. He says this. Reed and Boston aren't options from what he's reading. Joey's right. Maybe camp cut or trade is possible, but I think they're set also. So, you're probably hoping to coach one of those rookies into a safety position early. Mm-hmm. I wonder, does anybody know if, there was so many high hopes for, what was that one guy? He was a young player. He just had like a hamstring injury that killed him. He was a safety. You remember we lost like 3 safeties, and one everybody was high on back in the day. Not back in the day. It was just like last year. He's a young kid and never played any snaps. But he had been on the team for like 2 years. Does anybody remember that name? Would have been, he was on the team fighting with Trey Boston for that position 2 years ago. Not Lester.
Well, don't forget my boy that was the great white hope back there at safety that you kept putting down at the game that you took you to, and you saw him. He was the MVP of that game.
I hope Pat Coltrane is here. I hope he's still around in this, because I tell you one thing, Colin Jones is just damn sorry. Man had one good game, and all of a sudden these Colin Jones people all out in the.
He's really not that good.
God,
he's not.
He's not that bad. Special teams player.
Good special teams player, yes.
He's the fastest dude on the team, at least before the draft.
Yeah, he's not anymore.
Oh, look at this. This is at Scylla H. He said Trey Boston said he's already talked to the Panthers earlier, and they are focusing on the front 7. Doesn't mean he can't be brought back for cheap, but I don't know. And Big Chauncey, what's up? He brings it. Dean Marlowe was the name I was thinking of.
There you go. Yeah.
And Victor Lupercio. I should know this. I'm ethnic.
Easy for you to say, bro.
I know. Is that he says that kid out of James Madison. All right. So overall, I think we are feeling the harm. I am. Is that I don't know. Is that for me? I think that people have been particularly critical of Marty Hurney. And I feel like the voices, and we've had this show, guys, before where we talked about Marty Hurney, that those voices tend to be from younger fans. And I know it's what have you done for me lately, league. But, when you look at Marty Hurney in the context of 2009 and 2010, of course it looks terrible. Is that you signed Jake Delhomme in 2008 and he turned out to be broken. What else do you do at that point? Do you really not sign the guy that took you to the Super Bowl, that also got you back to the playoffs again and go like kind of a deeper run 2 years later? You don't know he's complete unless he gave him money and he knew he was hurt, right?
And let's face it, his biggest weakness was he had Jerry Richardson as his owner. And he was in a position where he was, yes, sir, Mr. Richardson. All of those bad contracts came from the very top. The big, huge extensions that weren't necessary, but it was paying Jerry's guys.
And
Lupercio. Good gosh. Tony, get your Italian in your head. Lupercio. He phonetically spelled it.
When Marty Hurney was announced as our GM again, I was not very happy, but I believe that in life, everyone deserves a second chance, man. You make mistakes and then you learn from them. And he was sitting back that entire time, kicking himself, thinking about all the things that he should have done different and what he would do if he had a second chance. And when you have that second chance, you really make sure that you make the right decisions. So I think that works out in his behest even more, because he doesn't want to mess this up a second time and be fired as the Panthers GM for a second time. He wants to knock it out of the park. And so far, I think he's done that.
I think one thing too is that we probably overblew the familiarity with the team to start last season. You know, you fired Dave Gettleman. You go, well, we just, Marty Hurney's familiar with the team, this and that. But then if you think of the chaos that has ensued this season in just the past year, the fact that he's navigated that and done this well in the process, you're thinking of all the stuff that's going on with ownership, all the controversy surrounding the sale, and then on top of that, the Breland thing. I don't think we can overstate how big of a hiccup Breland's foot was a problem for this, because that was the first guy they targeted, I feel like, or one of the top. They were right after him quick. So Marty Hurney's been thinking on his feet is what I'm saying.
And Tony, when bad things happen, good things can come from it. You think about it, the difference in the pay between Breland and Cockrell is probably close to the amount of what C.J. Anderson is. So who would you rather have, C.J. Anderson and Ross Cockrell, or just Brashard Breland? Yep.
Yeah, and how much would have that? Breland might have changed your draft strategy a good bit.
Yep.
I mean,
like we may not have Dante Jackson. Yeah.
Right. So there's some different things out of that. All right, last thing to talk about before we get to the cat calls and let this chat room steer the conversation. Well, I've got two things. One is, guys, Curtis Fuller. I don't believe any relation to the Fuller. He is a DB. That's like every DB named Fuller is going to make it to the NFL. And Curtis Fuller, who was a former, I think, 4th or 6th round pick by the Seattle Seahawks, he joined the Carolina Panthers team in 2016, I believe. He served in a couple of different capacities as a DB's coach, specifically under Steve Wilks. And he was also with Steve Wilks in Tennessee and the Titans before he came to the Carolina Panthers. He was all of a sudden, this kind of mysterious, or more not mysterious as much as just sudden, resigned from the team just 5 days after the NFL draft, just probably the day after we do the show. It's always the day after we do the show. So we moved the show.
That is the biggest news day of the week. So
yeah.
So we tomorrow.
Hey, Joe, my mom's calling me. Listen to this. I should put her on the podcast. All right, so with this, what was I talking about? I was talking about help me out, guys.
Defensive back.
Fuller. Oh, Fuller. So it goes out. This guy resigns. No investigation, right? No team investigation. He's gone. Turns out, my man, I think I read somewhere, was had a couple of text messages and inappropriate emails in a place where the climate is particularly heightened when it comes to sexual harassment. Joey, what's going on here?
This is news to me. I didn't know that it was a sexual harassment situation. With all that has transpired in this offseason with the Carolina Panthers, that has got to be the dumbest possible thing.
It had to have been before. I bet you it happened before. I bet you he's getting brought up on old stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't happen, like, last week.
Years ago?
If it did happen last week, you dumber than anything. Is that Jerry Richards? And what if he sent somebody a text message and said, "Do I remind you of your brother? Do I remind you of your neighbor? Do I remind you of a DB's coach? Or do I remind you?" God, so creepy. All right, but here's the thing: Curtis Fuller resigns, and it happens instantly. All this. I'm gonna turn this over to Mel with this. About 7 years ago, people were talking about Cam Newton and a fake smile. They were talking about Cam Newton, who had to leave Florida after destroying a laptop that he stole from the librarian. They talked about how you could put at the face of your franchise, at the top of such an important team, the leader as a big, black, beautiful man, and the things that could come with it. And I tell you what, who would have thought 7 years later that of all of that worries and concerns, that you damn Jerry Richardson selling the team in shame, that Brenton Burson has been given up as a stem cell donor, and that Curtis Fuller is also sending pictures of himself probably to people. Guys, this is why you don't judge a book by the cover, and if you did, you just knew that Cam Newton was a big, damn, beautiful man.
And I think one of the best tweets I've ever seen, and I wish I could attribute it to the right person, but he said, if I were Cam Newton, first thing I'd do is go get a tattoo.
Like of Jerry Richardson filling my ass. Like I would get Jerry Richardson rubbing my buttocks.
Hey, and an earring. Don't forget about that.
Yep.
A big, shiny diamond earring, just icy as possible. Let it hang on.
Joe, I'm going to the barber shop tomorrow, Joey. I hope. I need a haircut. Look at the wig right now. It's a little busy, right? I got those. I got that Afro poof I can get going. I was thinking, guys, should I go Cam Newton style and grow it out?
Hell yeah, you should.
Uh-oh.
Let it rock. Let it rock.
You're married with three kids. Do whatever you want, brother.
What do you think about going to the barber and showing him a picture of Cam Newton and be like, make me like this man?
I think he'd get a kick out of it, for
You'll be
one.
like, I got you, fam. I got you.
I got you, fam. I got you. All right, speaking of people looking good, let's go to this picture Cody Lashney sent me. Let me see. I got it somewhere in here. Holy cow. Cody, I got the picture up on the board. You can't see it, but they can. Tell us about this picture you sent.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey looks like he ate the rest of the football team. Okay? His arms are massive. Okay, and I have a bit of a theory here. I think Christian got word that we were looking to draft a running back and bring one in, and he goes, wait a minute, I was the 8th pick in the draft at running back, and they're already bringing in another one. I think it kind of pisses him off that people don't think that he's an every down back. So I think he's putting in the work, man, lifting that iron. He wants to do everything the Panthers need him to do. I mean, his right tricep is as big as my upper body. It is insane, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, it's Joe, is that he does look like he's, you know, and this is something, guys, that we talked about, is that Christian McCaffrey, when we talked about him being slight of build, he was not as slight as, you know, people we thought he was in college. But a lot of these guys get into these pro weightlifting programs, Joey, and they get their man bodies on far beyond that of college.
It's the exercises, it's definitely the nutrition, it's the knowing, you know, what supplements you can take to maximize the effort you're putting out in the gym. You know, they have all these people at your beck and call to help you become the best possible version or most athletic version of yourself you can become.
Yeah. Mel, what do you think, Christian McCaffrey? Do you think he can be, I actually think this is that the idea that he can't be a between the tackles runner is probably overblown. Can he be a guy that is a battering ram, 200 carries up the middle? No. Or 150 carries up the middle? Probably that isn't wise and would be maximizing his skill set. But he seemed durable enough. He doesn't seem like a wussy when it comes out there. I've seen worse up the middle.
Well, I mean, I've been in the minority in that I don't think we need the big ground and pound to go with him. I think C.J. Anderson's going to be a compliment, somebody that can do maybe 1 out of every 4 type of series type of thing, not an even split. I mean, in college, he ran a pro-style offense, and he ran straight up the middle. He's not the biggest guy, but, hey, is Le'Veon Bell big? Is LaDainian Tomlinson big? Is Curtis Martin big? These are other guys that, you don't have to be, just a big stud, huge dude to run up the middle. I mean, it's a lot to do with scheme and blocking and everything else. I'm willing to give him another year. Now, he didn't blow it open last year, but, hey, neither did the big, bad Jonathan Stewart.
No, when you think about the role that CMC played, you gotta be happy with what he did, man. I think coming in and catching 80-plus passes.
I would like to see him get a few more carries. I want to see him get about 15 carries a game.
I agree with you, but the offensive line was doing him no favors. Right.
Well, is that we don't really know how good or bad. See, this is the thing with Carolina Panthers' offensive line last season, guys, is that you had everybody that was supposedly rated fantastic, right? Terrell Williams, Andrew Norwell, Trey Turner being like having an off year and still pretty good, it seems like. But somehow Stewart was not getting a lot out of it, and I think what I like about what Mel said about C.J. Anderson is that to compliment something doesn't mean you just have to have sweet and sour. You can have sweet and kind of bittersweet. And that, is that you don't need a guy, too, that you go, all right, C.J. Anderson's out there. They only bring him out when they're going to run it up the middle. And that you have guys that at least can do multi-functions. And I think that hopefully Norv Turner will be able to find those complementary ways to use these guys. Now, quick, I want to go to Lynn in the chat room. She says she saw something about a rumor that the sale of the team might not go through until September.
Oh, wow.
What would a sale of the team, that changing of the guard while the season is underway, would that make any difference?
I think it actually minimizes the difference that we would see, because I would think a new owner coming in right with the season started would not make changes right then. They're not going to get rid of a general manager or a coach because they're not their guy. They're not going to make major changes because it's too late. They'll probably ride it through and then make their type of personality changes in the off season. But if the sale went through today, that's time for them to, not that they would get rid of Hurney, but you don't know, right? I mean, he could have his best friend who's a general manager type of a guy that he wants to bring in, and it's his prerogative.
Guys, T-Money Straight Facts is in the house. What's up, T-Money? I've been meaning to send you a message. I actually been thinking about you the last 2 weeks. I want to bring this up. Last point, and I keep saying that. This is like my students. My students are always like, all right, last point. Can we go? Right. This all comes down to the Khalil brothers, I think.
No doubt. That's very true.
It really does. It is like there's so much riding on that family at this moment, is that you need Matt Khalil to be. And the good news is he could be average this year. He could have an improved year over last year, being the second year with the team, right? One more year off of his surgery recovery or whatever. Guys, where do you see this offensive line with the Khalils? Is this a weakness, or is this something that we can manage? I'll start with Cody.
Yeah, for me, with Ryan, it's all about health. I have no, doubt in my mind that he's one of the best centers in the NFL. It's muscle memory for him at this point. It's can he sustain an entire season and be healthy the entire way. As far as Matt is concerned, man, if I'm him, I have a chip on my shoulder the size of Cam Newton. I mean, you have Cam Jordan calling him a speed bump. He was the liability last year, and he was supposed to have a career rejuvenation here in Carolina, and he didn't really have that, and it took him a while to pick up what we were doing on the offensive line. So, he really needs to step it up, or, we might be in the market for one come 2019. It's time for him to put up or shut up.
Joe, this offensive line, at some point there's going to be a knock on wood. At some point there's going to be that I word, right? and you got the Khalil brothers. Where do you see the Carolina Panthers, specifically with the Khalil brothers, knowing that things don't go as planned, but you think we can get one last run out of Ryan and maybe get a better run out of Matt?
Yeah, I think for one, Matt is getting ready to be in a system he had been in before, where he was learning this new Panther system last year, so there's some familiarity. That's a bonus, right?
Yeah, Norv Turner.
Right, the Norv Turner offense. And secondly, with the other Khalil brother, you have, with Ryan, you have a full off season of therapy, treatments for this crick in his neck that he got from sleeping.
From
so
sleeping.
Full off
sleeping.
To take care of this. And yes, I think a good, healthy run from the Khalil brothers is on the horizon.
Wonderful. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move this show to the next phase where Panther fans get to steer the ship. Look, guys, you're listening right now. Your conversation in the YouTube chat is always the best. You guys lead this show. It's phenomenal to see so many people here tonight. I thought we wouldn't have any, to be honest, because of the surprise night change. But, guys, we need your help continued. Smash that thumbs up button on YouTube. Hit the like button on Facebook. And go ahead and subscribe and share. Send this podcast to a friend. And you can call in and have your voice heard on the #1 Panthers podcast by calling the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. And here are your calls from this week.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hi, this is Cat Chronicles, Cat fans. What's up with you?
What up with you, baby Bubba? That's from Pat.
Calling. I have an opinion on our recent draft. Well, all I can say is Marty Hurney was just being Marty Hurney.
Do tell.
As in his past, he can hit on the first round. I like the DJ Moore pick. Either him or Ridley, hey. I mean, I wanted Ridley, but they got Moore. Yep. I'm still happy with it because either one, I'm happy. Even though I think Moore might have more of an upside to him, so I'm satisfied with that. And let's talk about Mr. Hurney. All that trading he did with the third round instead of the fourth round. Okay, excuse me. Instead of just drafting safeties, how you going to draft a corner to convert him into safety and hope that he can learn to be one? If that's the case, just get a guy that's already played the position. But, man, it's Hurney. So, Cat fans, what did you freaking expect? Did you think Marty Hurney was? Did you really think Marty Hurney was that big of a changed man? No. So you guys tell me what you think about the later picks in the draft. There was a lot of talent out there he could have got. No offensive lineman. He waited till the undrafted free agency to try to get a lineman. I am the biggest CMC fan, but I wanted us to get a running back, somebody that can spell him, because we don't know. Ron Rivera claims that Cap is going to get a chance. He said that 2 years ago. And Cap didn't see the field that much. He said that last year before the beginning of the season, Cap didn't see that much. He said it this year. So you can't trust Rivera no further than you can throw him when it comes to Cap. So
you can't trust him on
we
Cap.
didn't get running back. We got one free agency, which is a big freaking deal. But Tony, Mayo, you tell me what you think about our draft. I think Hurney screwed it up at the in the later rounds when the talent was there for us, but oh freaking well.
All right. Well, look, it sounds like, well, first of all, I want to let you know that the YouTube stream is going cruddy at the moment. So we appreciate your support in this. Like, let's just talk quickly about that call. You know, what we're talking about here is this draft, and we're not going to go through all the picks. I think I saw one news today, one tidbit, that the Panthers fielded calls for trading potentially the 4th round pick, right, and they decided to stick with it, and that was some sort of testament to the Ian Thomas, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, Ian Thomas.
Yeah. So is that potentially, what do you guys think with this? Is that, let's talk about that. Did you get value with Ian Thomas? Let's just ask that question. Did you get, Cody, value with Ian Thomas?
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite picks in this draft. If you look at what he does and his route running ability, and the dude has like massive hands, like 11-inch hand size. Dude, the guy is built like a house. He's not necessarily tall, but yeah, it's one of the great picks, I think, in our draft that we'll be talking about for a long time. I understand what Carlton's saying. In the later rounds, we took 2 linebackers, and I think that's a position that we're already kind of deep at. So I understand. I do think there was a lot of talent to be had. I know when I was previewing guys in the cat calls, a few of those guys were available to be had in the later rounds. I would have loved to have picked up Deion Kane, a receiver from Clemson. He was there. But, I mean, you just don't know what's going on behind the doors, man. You know, Ron Rivera and all the scouts and the coaches, they have a plan for the team that they're trying to build. And they know how to adhere to that plan. So even though they're not name guys that we know right now, you never know, man. They could end up being worth the pick. So you have to wait and see and see how they end up turning out. And even if they make the roster before you start slamming Hurney for those later round picks.
Mel, you know, the one thing I know that we talk about the linebackers at a position that has a lot of strength, or, you know, you got depth, David Mayo, it seems, Thomas Davis, who will miss some time, but you got Shaq Thompson who's going to step in there, Luke Kuechly. But it seems to me that those linebackers deep in that draft are less about linebacking and more about special teams.
Well, that very well could be, but I think it's also showing a discipline. I mean, that's what the Hurney haters wanted, right? Be disciplined, stay pat, and take the best player or get the best value where you can. And you got to remember, Hurney is the guy that drafted Luke Kuechly when we had John Beeson, right? And I think he even took John Beeson when we had Dan Morgan, right? So I think he believes you can never have too many of those guys, because let's say, God forbid, the I word does pop up again for Luke, and then Mayo is the only guy you got there. And Mayo's probably in the last year of his contract. So having some depth there. And Andre Smith, when healthy, was one of the best linebackers in the country. So great value in the late round. So, you know, I don't think – I mean, what would you rather have, some position of need that doesn't pan out, or somebody in a position that's not necessarily listed as a position of need, but in time this becomes a real stud and his time comes, but maybe you didn't get that instant gratification. So I think it's a maturation – Marty 2.0, you know. I think it's but Cody said it very well. Time will tell. You can't judge that draft right yet.
Gosh, man, the YouTube stream's just like sucking. So hopefully I'm gonna hit the refresh right here, and hopefully nope, it's not helping. But we're gonna continue recording. Here's the next call.
I
Chicago kid here. Sorry I wasn't chiming in the last 2 weeks. Had a lot of things going on. I had a business trip in Cleveland, so I enjoyed trolling them about their decisions in the draft. Whether they were smart or not, it's still fun to do that. Also, I got engaged, so yay! Now I definitely have to upgrade my lunch.
Congratulations, man.
But calling in for a couple different reasons. One, listening to the discussion over, busts, steals, as always with the draft. But I think one thing that we forget is the combine, the draft, how much money that makes for the NFL and the people who cover it. Causing this drama, this discussion, these draft grades and everything, it just brings in money. So if you look at the draft grades as a whole, yeah, we were listed as C- on a couple. We were listed as A's on others, B+. So no one really knows what they're talking about. Perfect example, at least for me, I really didn't even hear the name Alvin Kamara until he blew up. And what was he, a third, fourth round pick? I don't know. Anyway, so we won't know until they get on the field. And also, when we're talking about if they're successful in the pros, college, that kind of thing, we forget sometimes that these people are exactly that. They're people. And we don't know what their motivations are inside because they aren't always, forthcoming with that kind of thing. We don't know what kind of support structure they had in college, on the field, off the field, that kind of thing. So we forget they're people. So anyway, I am pleased with the draft as a whole. Super excited about more. And lastly, yeah, I'm happy with it. So we just gotta support them, and yeah, we gotta keep pounding exactly what we always have done. And yeah, keep it up, guys. Keep pounding yourselves. And if you guys are ever in Chicago, somehow get in touch with me, and I'll show you around the city. Anyway, all right, guys, keep pounding. Let's go.
You know what? I definitely will, and I'm going to take you up on that on the one day that the first major. I've never attended a Major League Baseball game ever in the history of my life, and I'm a kind of a decent baseball fan, but now it's been 36 years. I figure why just settle for the Orioles and make a big trip out of it and go see my team with my son. Take him to go see the Chicago Cubs in Wrigley. So
pizza.
Yeah. I'll tell you one other thing, Chicago kid. You're right. Now that you're married, you will keep pounding yourself. Ta-ding! Hey. Sorry, I had to go there. Married life, bro. Married life is gonna get. All of a sudden, you're gonna be a grown up. You're Elantra. You're gonna trade in your Elantra for a damn Chrysler Town and Country in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna
Put
call
some
it
car seats in the back.
That's right. You're gonna call it the Swagger Wagon. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Hey fellas, how y'all doing? This is G. Cavassier.
Yeah.
Quick question. I saw some things on Twitter, and I want you guys' opinions on a couple of things. Okay. Everyone is saying that we should take Trey Boston back before, I guess, his deadline is coming up in a couple of days. To me, I say no, because I really wasn't a Trey Boston fan, even though he was a Tar Heel, and I am a Tar Heel fan. I just something about him, I don't know. If he was cheap, I probably would. With Eric Reed, I think that's going to be. It's not going to happen, I don't think. If it does, I'll be surprised, but I really do not think he's coming to Carolina. And the second thing is, what do you guys think about C.J. Anderson?
Look at that.
Coming to Carolina as a running back. To me, I think we'll be okay with the running backs that we have, but I'm seeing a lot of people online. I'm talking to a couple of people saying that we need a veteran running back.
That's the guy.
This is not 2003 no more. If everyone remembers when Stephen Davis came, I wasn't on board for that. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't at all. But
you older than I thought.
Super Bowl that year, So You guys, let me know your opinion, and can't wait for this season to start. And keep pounding, baby. Oh, yeah, and to the freaking Puerto Rican, I love the cars that you put up on Twitter, man. The cars are beautiful, man, especially that 67 Corvette I think it was. It was beautiful, man. Anyway, y'all have a good time, man, and keep pounding.
That's my G
Great call,
right there.
man.
That's
I
my
love
G
him
right
calling
there.
in every week.
He's the best. He's a good. That's a good caller. Let's go, Joe. He likes your cars.
That's why I put them up there, because they're beautiful.
They beautiful. All right, so I think C.J. Anderson does bring that veteran presence. What was the other part of the call? Help me out on the Trey Boston. All right, so guys, my opinion on this is like I think he's 100% right. I think that the Eric Reed ship has sailed. I think it sailed officially when Eric Reed filed a grievance with the NFL, and not that grievance should stop him from becoming a Carolina Panther. I just think that this demonstrates that there's really zero motion in the ocean when it comes to there. But you know, Trey Boston, man, I tell you what, is that I know he had a good season last year, but never really was truly impressive to me. Felt like he was out of position a lot, and boy, if my man can miss a tackle, he can miss a tackle.
If he could make tackles consistently,
he would be amazing.
We could live with the other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
you're right.
You're out of position a bunch, and you can't make consistent tackles. Sorry, we got no place for you here.
Yep. All right.
One more thing. I remember one play, funny enough, against San Diego Chargers, and somebody was running right his way, and he missed by a country mile. I don't even know what he was looking at.
He's looking at their feet, bro. He's looking at their feet, man, because he's.
And you know, another thing, the Chargers, they have a pretty good backfield, you know, that doesn't get a lot of love. I mean, and they just added Derwin James. But when you're around talented guys, it opens up more for a player to get a crazy number of interceptions like he had last year, you know. Whereas the backfield, other than Josh Norman the past few years, that's been the weakness here in Carolina, and he wasn't that spectacular other than when everyone was balling out. So, Trey Boston, I think he's had his time here in Carolina. We thank him for what he did, but I don't believe he's the answer to what we're trying to do right now.
Yeah, I think this is that if you did sign him, it wouldn't be bad, but I don't think it would be as good as people would want it to be.
Well, I don't think it's as good of a move as people have in their mind.
Yeah, it's like you're thinking this, a guy who was a Pro Bowler last year, who's familiar with the system, he's going to come in and be a Pro Bowler again.
No.
And that's watching the highlight tape. And I'm not saying maybe he would be, but it's one of those things I think like we always get locked in.
And he's going to, he's coming, I'm sure they run a totally different defense out there. You know, he's asked to do different things there than he's going to be asked to do here. Right. And we've already been down that road.
Would he be an upgrade over Mike Adams? Sure.
Well, here's the name to keep an eye on, guys. And he's been a guy that I personally don't like because of his role in Bountygate. But when you're talking about you're bringing in Malden, and basically you're going to be the free safety, the guy that does more of the coverage in the safety. You need that solid hitter down in the box, and that's Kenny Vaccaro. You know, and he's a name that's available.
He wasn't there during Bountygate, dude.
Yes, he was.
No way.
He's the one that went after Steve Smith's ankles out of bounds. It was his rookie year.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't realize he had been in, like, it feels like, Bountygate feels like a million years ago.
And isn't Vaccaro injured, like, all the time?
Yes.
My brother's a Saints fan, and he swears up and down that Vaccaro isn't hurt. But it's like every season he misses like 5 games. What the hell? That's an injury problem, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's something to take a look at. Yeah,
he had a great rookie season, but has never been able to get back to it.
Highly touted coming out of Texas, but he, really since that rookie year just hasn't impressed me.
You know, T Money's right. I mean, I'll give T. I'll say this is that rather have Trey than Kenny Vaccaro. I can handle that. Like I can handle that. All right, we got 2 more calls. Here we go.
Hey, my name is John. I live in Charlotte. I wanted to get Cody's what he thinks about Alvin Kamara versus Christian McCaffrey.
Ooh.
Go to bed. That's my brother, you guys. They're probably listening to the show right now.
Good for him. Nah, man, don't tell him to go to bed. Stay. Tell him to subscribe.
No, this is what I think. Christian McCaffrey has a way higher ceiling than Alvin Kamara.
Wow.
And
that's just being a homer, bro.
No, I genuinely believe that. Alvin Kamara is a great player, and no one's taking that away from him. But I think the fact that, Christian had an aging Jonathan Stewart next to him, and Kamara had Ingram, who was in his prime, and that was a 1-2 punch. Yeah, C.J. Anderson and now Cameron Artis-Payne, they're going to help Christian out. He's in the second year. I genuinely do believe he has a higher ceiling. And since they went the same draft, they're going to be compared to each other for the rest of their career. So, yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey has the higher ceiling. And
I can say this with absolute confidence is that we have not seen the best version of Christian McCaffrey yet.
Oh yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
Shaked in the YouTube chat might be my favorite comment of the night. Go to sleep, John.
Yeah.
I want to ask Joey this because he brings a unique perspective because he's Puerto Rican. And I don't know, you guys are going to be like, oh, that's racist, that's ethnicism. No, I know Puerto Ricans. I know some Puerto Ricans, and I know these mugs are hot-blooded, right? They're hot-blooded Puerto Ricans. And, Joe, what can you tell me? Are there any downfalls when you're dating a beautiful, pretty woman who's good to you, right? But you see that pretty woman with a nice backside, kind of like a football backside of Alvin Kamara. Can you mistakenly be inebriated by that and forget just how good your woman is?
What?
Good point.
Joey, what I'm trying to say is that it's easy to look at Alvin Kamara and be infatuated by Christian McCaffrey with some ass. But you got a running back who's going to cook you dinner.
Right, and look, with Alvin Kamara,
I don't know what it means.
We saw him, I would say, at his best last year. Okay, because he's not going to be catching anybody by surprise anymore.
Right.
Teams are going to be looking for him and it's game planning him. So I think what we have to look forward to with McCaffrey is, for one, he looks like he's bulked up a bit. Maybe now he's got a little backside of his own.
Yeah, boy.
All right. And
but don't.
Hey guys, I love me some Christian McCaffrey, but I gotta say Alvin Kamara is special.
He is. There's no doubt about it. But now that McCaffrey has a backfield compliment that is a legitimate compliment that we know.
And the Saints have a little bit better offensive line, really.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I think you're absolutely right. So if we can get better offensive line play, and then we can get CJ to do his part, watch out, league. We saw a little taste of what McCaffrey can do there toward the end of the year. Remember when he broke that long run?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I think we should expect to see more of this coming season.
And he had so many runs where he was about to break one off, and then at the last minute to be tripped up.
Yep.
Yeah, man, the dude has so much talent. It's not even funny, man. We have not seen the best out of that young man by far.
I gotta say this is that Christian McCaffrey can be good looking, but Alvin Kamara can be too. Mr. T Money 1993.
What's going on?
Mr. T Money 1993 said this. That's our boy Straight Facts. He said we had 3 chances to game plan versus Kamara, and he balled out all 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all right. Look, for you guys that don't know this, I'm just gonna say this. You all think that my monologue or whatever that was, soliloquy, was crazy, right? But I'm gonna promise you this: if your daughter brings home a Puerto Rican man, you will understand.
I got it now that you explained it.
Yeah.
But I was like really lost there for a minute.
Joe, you boys.
Yeah, I picked up what you were putting down.
You boys run hot. I thought Italians ran hot. I thought Italians ran hot, but you guys, them Puerto Ricans, run hotter. All right, last call of the night.
What is up, guys? This is your boy, Mr. T Money 1993. Man, just watching tonight's show. I'm definitely excited about the C.J. Anderson signing, man. I love what Marty Hurney has been doing, especially with the obstacles put in his way by our organization and by just trying to compete in this league, man. And I'm definitely a big fan of the moves he's been making. But that's it, man. You know, as always, I love and respect y'all guys. I'm out.
All right,
Thanks for the call, man.
Yeah, T-Money 1993, a.k.a. Straight Facts, guys. Again, just echoing how we're feeling the Hearn, it seems. And I think a lot of that, particularly the Dontari Poe, and I will bring this up, even though it's not going to be my ice-up pick of the week. His name was, there was some guy that was I think it was John Kruger or something like that. He came on WFNZ. He was on the Mac Attack. I had the tweet. But he was just trashing Poe. Atlanta Falcons radio jockey, and it just goes to show you them Atlanta Falcons, man, they don't even know good football when they see it. How you trashing Poe and being like he won't nothing for y'all? He majored a defensive line. All right, guys, that's the C3 podcast. We still got one segment though, right, where we tell somebody to ice up, to get it together, to toughen up. This is the longest segment, running segment, because it's our homage to Steve Smith. This is where we tell you, someone in the world, to get it together. Mel Mayock, you love to ice people up.
I do, brother. I tell you, and the Atlanta Falcons are always on my mind. And when they gave $30 million to Meg Ryan, per year, they were right up there. But that's not the way I'm going.
Why didn't they give him $28.3 million?
Yes, that would make a whole lot more sense. Yes, that would make a whole lot more sense. Yeah. So, my ice up for the week really is just to inject a conversation that we didn't talk about tonight that's really important in what's going on, and I think it's important to have this voice heard. You know, they say that there's 4 bidders remaining in the cell for the Carolina Panthers, and it really causes me some sleep deprivation to think that 2, and I heard that 2 out of those 4 are very pro moving the stadium and making it a dome, taking it down to, say, Fort Mills, something like that, where the Knights used to play baseball and nobody went to go see, and they want to make it a dome so that you could get the Super Bowl, or maybe you can get some collegiate championship games. Well, guess what? We got the ACC championship game for 10 years in an open-air stadium. The Bank of America Stadium is the fabric of downtown. You move that out into the sticks, and you have, as good as our fan base is, you move this out in the sticks, and you have a couple of years of bad play, it's really going to suffer. You're really going to see some damage done to the team, and I think it hurts the entire community. So I just wanted my voice to be heard, and I think a lot of fans would echo that. But these 2 out of these 4 just really need to ice up and remember who supports these Panthers and where they belong, and they belong in downtown Charlotte.
Amen.
forever. So, ice
Cody,
up, guys.
Ice up. Cody, what you got for us?
Yeah, so this is my first official Ice Up on the C3 podcast, and I was mulling over a few of them, and I had one that I had picked out, but I'm just going to go with the low-hanging fruit. I'm icing up Mr. Kanye West. And no, I'm not for his political views because, hey, in America, you believe what you want to believe and you vote how you want to vote. We can have a discourse about it. But in the end, you make your own decision. If he's a Trump supporter, then have at it. He's allowed to do so. But then to go on TMZ and say that slavery was a choice, it sounded like they were choosing to be slaves. Yeah, that's why a whole bunch of people don't have a lot of nice things to say about Kanye West right now. Somebody who I used to love. I used to play his album every day in high school, man, going to and from. Kanye West, that College Dropout album. That was one of my favorite albums, hip-hop albums of all time. I think Homeboy is dealing with some serious mental illness. So, I don't know. I don't want to make fun. I'm just saying to my homeboy, Mr. West, ice up, son.
Ice up, Mel. Joe. That's what happens when your head is swole bigger than the dang the house I live in. Kanye just bought too much into himself. Won't ever as good as everybody else, right? But anyway, Joe, what you got for us? Stream is kind of chipping up, but it's all right.
You're muted, Joe.
He was coming hard at him.
I'm going to ice up Mel.
Thank you.
Of what he just said. I live in South Carolina. I think putting the stadium somewhere between two states is putting their money where their mouth is. They talk about two states, one team. I'm not saying.
Wow.
I'm not saying you gotta
Good
move
for you,
it to
Joe.
Fort Mill. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying having it closer to the border makes it more of a.
You don't get much closer than Charlotte. I mean, that's right at the border.
So many North Carolina Panther fans say, "Oh, where's the team? The team's in Charlotte." It's not two states, one team. It's the North Carolina Panthers. Just because of where that stadium is. And I think that's the absolute wrong attitude to have. I don't mind it being in Charlotte, but I think moving it to where it's on the border makes it two states, one team.
Very interesting. That's good for you, Joe, bringing the original take there, because we've heard people talk, vehemently about not wanting the team moved. I mean, not the stadium. But that's like the first time I've heard of a relocation plan beyond just we're going to get a Super Bowl. That's the first time I've heard that discussion right there, is that about building this would be more than just something that gets you a Super Bowl. I think that's commendable.
Hey Joe, you got the right to be wrong, brother. That's good.
He's our very own Kanye. He's our very own Kanye.
And listen, if I may just jump in real quick, I live in downtown Charlotte, and I take the light rail uptown all the time. And man, nothing makes me happier and more proud than seeing that stadium right in the middle of downtown Charlotte, man. I love it. I love seeing it in person. Whenever you're watching the game on Sunday and you see the skyline in the background,
It is iconic.
Yeah, there's pride in that. And I understand what Joey's saying too. There's a South Carolina contingency that hasn't been represented as much. So while it would be good for them, I feel like then it switches the other way. You would have a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, it's the South Carolina Panthers now, and not the North Carolina Panthers."
Here's what I want. I want Navarro to get it, the Charleston businessman, and I want him to move. I want him to move training camp down to Charleston, and then make it a big deal and a big production, and really, I mean, that can be a little bit more of a South Carolina identity.
Yeah,
But-
I don't mind that at all.
But, you know, aside from, I mean, Charlotte's pretty daggone close to the border, let's face it. It's like 25 miles. And that's where the population is. I mean, you move it to Rock Hill or Fort Mill. I mean, hey, nothing against South Carolina, but if you want a population in South Carolina, you'd have to move it to Columbia, and it's not really going to work. Or
No, I was thinking.
No, it's more about just making it more convenient to people of South Carolina, I would think. And I don't know the geography well enough.
I mean, wherever you put the stadium, wherever
People are going to go.
move it, you're going to have progress in that area. You're going to see that area begin to flourish. Businesses are going to pop up. You're going to see a lot of things happening in that area. So
Podcasts.
C3 hangouts, yeah.
I mean, everywhere. All right. Let me tell you this, is that I think I just saw this. I just always check the news right before I make my ISEP pick. Did you guys see Oliver North to be NRA's new president?
Which is a great move by the NRA.
Is it? I don't know. Yeah. Is that all I know is Oliver North swept up in the Iran-Contra scandal, which was an arms scandal. So I just think that's interesting. But that's not my ISEP pick. My ISEP pick is that these mugs that want to hate. I think Mel made this ISEP pick a couple of weeks ago. And that is like, you're not going to be happy no matter what when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. Right now, I think I saw one tweet from a guy, and he said, aside from Don Terry Poe and Ross Cockrell, this offseason has been atrocious.
Oh, my God.
The guy that put that out, his handle was very fitting.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't like these. I don't support it, really, to be honest. They're always like this, so I'm not even going to mention it. But, like, I mean, come on. At this point, like, is that really even close to a fair evaluation?
No, it's not honest. That is not an honest evaluation. You're just being a schmuck.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So to you guys, to schmucks, I say ISEP.
Schmucks everywhere.
All right. Weather is getting at the YouTube. It seems we've had a bad stream for the last 10 minutes. So look, we're going to kill it. Guys, this is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night, but this Monday night, you can check out the #1 Panthers podcast from the fan perspective. What we do is we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions, and we do it with your voice, your opinions, and we do it as a family. So tonight I've been with Cody Lashney. Cody, I know you're on Twitter now. Is that new?
No, I've been on there for a long time. I just recently kind of got active in using it. But, yeah, CODYLAC on Twitter. I make a lot of immature posts about a lot of dumb things. So if you want to chuckle about Panthers news or whatever else, that's where I'm at.
Hit them up. Joe Riolano, where can they hit the hot-blooded freaking Puerto Rican up?
You can find me on Twitter at Joe Riolano. That's simple.
Mel Mayock, where you at, brother?
Catch me at Panthers Drafter anytime.
My name's Tony Dunn. You can follow us at @cat_chronicles. We encourage you to subscribe, to share, and to keep pounding. You maybe even want to donate to the show, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. We just prefer your comments. We'll see you next week.
Keep pounding.
Next Tuesday.